satellites? A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth.
Welcome to Satellite Haiku. I'm Milo.
I'm Sean. Hey, I was thinking about what we started with last time with the browser tabs, and I just closed a couple windows for projects that are complete. That's such a good feeling when you can kind of get rid of the thing. Yeah.
No, I just went through. My dad, his computer died. Like we tried to. He's a Windows guy, and I'm a Mac since 87. So I was helping him buy a new computer, and it's always weird when you're helping someone buy a Windows computer because you don't know like anything about them. You know.
I haven't used Windows since XP. That's how long ago I used Windows. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I had to at work. They gave me two laptops. I had a Mac, but then to access SharePoint drives, they made me use a nasty PC,
right?
Which was just awful. Like, I mean, SharePoint. We always had the worst versions of everything. Everything was like 10 years old, and like they were like all server installs like in the closet, so they ran really slow. Like nothing was. They were terrified of the cloud at Roche.
Yeah, I remember you told me that.
Yeah, they just were like so scared of the cloud that they.
Which is so backwards. Like the cloud is more secure if anything. Yeah.
But I think
IT, you know, like there's this like there's sort of like a curse of the specialist. Like if you have a person who's a specialist is like they think their job is the most critical function of an organization, right? So so you get these sort of feudal tribalism things where it's like the IT guy was like, if I don't protect the system, if we hand it over to those cloud people, like, you know, and he's out of a job at that point, maybe, right? So,
and I will say this to be fair to Roche as an organization. I mean, I used to joke that, you know, the company was started in 1896 and went bankrupt 4 times. It wasn't until like 1963 that one of their chemists invented the benzodiazepine for Valium. So like all of their profits, all of the way they were able to buy Genentech, the way they were able to make all of these 39 acquisitions.
Mother's little helper.
Well, but I used to joke and say, so Valium flows in the corporate bloodstream. Like you can tell that everything moves really slowly. And the positive thing, the thing that I will give them kudos for, at least at the organization that I was part of and throughout other ones, they tended to hire older people. Like they would a lot of people at up in Oro Valley would be like they had a career working for somewhere else, and then they were semi-retired, and they would move to Tucson, and they would be like the head of legal or something.
I see.
And there was a lot of elderly people, and so like the IT people weren't necessarily like the young. There was no young kids.
They were old school.
They were super old school. Like they were taught like to build a server rack and put it in the closet. You know.
Right.
And so someone would come along and say. Hey, we want to switch to the cloud. And they'd be like, but if you put all your stuff up in a tree, everyone's going to come steal it. You know, like, why would I do that? You know,
they don't know that, hey, we're connected to the internet. They can come steal it. This isn't Battlestar Galactica, right?
And what was sad was that they made all of the hacks, like they were getting hacked all the time, and they had some pretty nasty industrial hacks. But that just made it worse. Like that made them triple down. Like I wanted to do Adobe Creative Cloud.
Yeah.
And I applied for it, and they rejected my application through the
It had
IT
the word
channel.
cloud in it.
Yeah, because it was the cloud.
Yeah.
And so then my coworker was like, dude, just load it anyway. Like just pay for it with your credit card. Like they don't even know. Like,
yeah. What's it going to do? Breach the cloud is going to, the Adobe Creative Cloud is going to somehow creep into the other systems.
Well, he was
I guess that's what they think about.
He was
right?
like, we're paying Google Enterprise account for our Gmail, and like all of that's in the cloud. So like, what is their problem?
Right,
like, what,
right. Yeah. Do you remember, did you watch the remake of Battlestar Galactica, the whole series, like the one from maybe 10 years ago?
I did not. My kids did. I watched maybe like part of as I walked through the room. Maybe
I don't remember if the original Battlestar had this premise, but the way the series kicks off, the reboot, is the Galactica is the only surviving ship of the Cylon offensive. Like the Cylons basically destroy the whole military, the entire sort of human defense system apparatus, right?
Yeah.
And but the Battlestar Galactica is the one surviving ship because it's an old ship and it's not connected to the network. in the same way. Like it doesn't, like it was going to be decommissioned or whatever, but it survived because it didn't have it wasn't connected to the cloud, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. No, those kind of antique. Like my cousin was neighbors with this guy Jerry who moved to Tucson, and if you go to look for the Unix Bible, he's one of the authors. Like he wrote the Unix Bible, and I went to meet him for lunch downtown, and when he was taking my number down, he got out this thing that was like, I don't even know what it was called. It was like some kind of like Palm Pilot flip up thing that like you had buttons on it and like, and I was like, wow, man.
There was a BlackBerry at one point that was horizontal. Maybe it was, or there was a Nokia device. It was also horizontal.
It was definitely, it must have been like, it was like I didn't recognize the name and it didn't look like a BlackBerry. But anyway, so I said, wow, that thing's an antique. And he goes, still works great. And then I said, why do you like it so much? And he goes, because no one can hack into it. Like it's so old, like no one even knows like the code, the kernel, like
maybe it doesn't hack your attention either. That's the other reason like people switch to like flip phones and stuff. There's like the sort of the ditch your social media movement and the people who take that to the extreme. Like I have a friend, Jay, great writer. He switched to a flip phone recently. He wrote a great piece about just kind of like trying to sort of like abandon or rescue himself from the attention economy or reject the attention economy. I don't know what the right verb is, but yeah, so he went so far as to get, I thought about it. I can't, there's too many things on the phone. Like, I feel like if my own self-discipline fails to that degree, like, I'll find other, if I have so little self-discipline, I'll find other vices. But like things like Google Maps, right? Like there's stuff on the phone that I've come to rely on that I don't want to go that old school again. What am I going to use? Thomas guides again?
Yeah. It's true that I remember when I was in New York, I was working at a film editing house where we did a lot of ads. Like that's all we did was 30-second ads, 60s and 30s.
Yeah.
And the sound over and over again repeating that, like the subtext was, you're not good enough, your life is not good enough unless you buy our product. Like it was this subtext of like, and so it really crept into my self-esteem and kind of was messing with me. So I asked my roommates, remember in the loft, could we not play TV, out in the public
I remember
areas?
that, and I still am grateful for that. I don't like an ambient television that's just on. Yeah. Because we didn't have an escape from it in that loft, right? Like there was
a big open 2,000.
We didn't have rooms to escape into. It was a loft.
Right. And then when I moved to Tucson, I moved downtown, and there was this thing called the Midtown Wall, and all these buildings because it was coming from Mount Lemmon, the broadcast, and so that we couldn't. Even with just TV, even with those bunny ears, we couldn't really get a clear signal. So I just stopped watching TV altogether.
Yeah. There's whole whole years of TV that I basically missed because of that time in my life. Like, shows that everybody knows that. Yeah. Remember, we used to go downstairs to watch a couple shows. Like, didn't Tanya babysat,
Becky,
right?
Becky, the cousin.
So we went downstairs and we would watch. We would watch Northern Exposure. I remember that show. Like that was our one night of TV.
Oh
we
yeah,
would sometimes
that was a fun show. Yeah.
Yeah, or Murphy Brown. I think Guylaine and I think our two of our roommates liked Murphy Brown, and they would watch that. I didn't watch that with them, but we would sometimes go down. Like that was a good solution. Like if you have a show that you're really interested in, you go. We had a place to go and watch it, but you had to be intentional about it, and you had to have. It took some effort, right? That's kind of ideal.
You mentioned mentioned our roommate Guylaine, and I wanted to. It came up for me this week that we chat on social media. I almost met up with her in New York, but she was out of town when I was there. But very dear old roommate. But I remember thinking, wow, if you had, it's such a beautiful name, Guylaine. Yeah, Guylaine.
It is, yeah.
And the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell is such a big part of this nasty Epstein thing.
Does she pronounce it? I can't remember if she pronounces it.
Everyone doesn't really know how to pronounce it. Like,
right.
I think it's a French name, and I think they pronounce it.
I'm trying to.
Ghislaine.
Again, I don't watch a lot of news. I read way more news than I watch, so I can't really I can't really hear how people I don't know how people pronounce her Ghislaine Maxwell.
A lot of people, you hear it different ways, like Ghislaine or
because I remember like Ghislaine our roommate used to correct people, and so we eventually got it right. But like you would meet new people and they would fuck it up.
Yeah. And her boss even asked her, what was the name of that company? It was like a furniture company. Techline. Her boss asked her to change her name to Lane because he thought it was kind of like a barrier to entry, like for customers or Yeah. So she was pretty bummed about it, but I know we used to tease her,
I remember, Laney, like we kind of messed around with that.
Do you remember that I had an ongoing running joke with her where I would call and do fake, like I pretend to be a customer with a funny accent.
Yeah.
And the best one that I ever
you
got
would get her every time. It was so funny.
Yeah, and the one that the one that I really got her, we all went down to hang out with her. Maybe she was working late or something. Or it was like a Saturday or something. So we went in there and people were having coffee or something. And I ran out across the street to a payphone and I called her. And the way I would punk her is I would ask, I'm looking for a particular kind of ottoman, a chartreuse ottoman.
Yeah, as soon as you got to chartreuse ottoman, then she knew it was you. Yeah. It makes me think of the bit on with Paul Rudd used to do on Conan, on the Conan show.
I didn't see
where he would he would go on Conan O'Brien. Paul Rudd, those two both are funny. Conan O'Brien's one of the funniest people in the world, Paul Rudd would go on there, ostensibly to pitch some new movie he was in. Mm-hmm. And then he would start talking about the movie. And then they would go to the clip, let's show a clip. And it was always this one clip from the movie Mac and Me, which was like, it was about this alien that came. It was like this really bad E.T. ripoff, basically. And the scene they would show is Mac and Me with this kid would be like barreling down like a precipice basically on his wheelchair, like just and crashing in anyway.
So they would they would punk Conan every time, but would they show the real clip?
And then it would become a joke because Conan would be like, "You're going to show Mac and Me again, aren't you?" No, I'm done with that, right? Like,
What's at work with my coworkers in the corporate world? Yeah. We used to try to get each other with what's the never gonna give you up. Rickroll. Yeah. So we came up with ways to Rickroll people that like we would put the Rickroll like in another video. Like
my son and I we have a Rickroll war going on.
Do you really? Oh, that's awesome.
For years now. Yeah.
What's your trick? Because we even
we haven't done it for a while, but
we even made like a big one would be we text each other and be like, hey, I'm asking this question about some Adobe product. Can you click here and just tell me what some like it really made sense, right? So you click on it and then like 2 seconds into the video it switches to Rickroll,
Yeah.
My coworker had one where she did like these QR codes.
Yeah.
So she would put a Rickroll in a QR code and she'd print it out and put it where like you're supposed to like QR code to get.
What do you think it is about that song?
I don't know, but I saw him singing the other day, maybe like a couple months ago, and he looks so young. I mean, he looked young then.
He looks. Like, I think you hit on it. Like the Song Exploder, but the podcast Song Exploder.
Yeah,
right?
Of course. Yeah,
we've talked about it. Yeah, they do it. They have an episode about that song.
Oh, really? With him?
Features the guys that wrote it. It was like a couple guys that wrote it, and he somehow worked for the recording studio. Rick Roll. Rick, what the fuck is his name?
I was going to say Moranis, but it's not.
God, I was going to say Kasich, Rick Moranis. Anyway.
That's so funny. Yeah, but the redhead kid with the big lips. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, he worked for the recording studio, and I guess somehow, like, he was just the demo recorder. Like, he wasn't going to be the final guy and they liked it, right? Like, it was really good. It sounded good. But they were saying that one of the guys on that podcast, if I can paraphrase, it was kind of his sort of hypothesis.
Rick Astley.
Rick Astley, thank you. Why it took off was just because of how he looks. Like, you hear that voice.
Yeah.
And it's such a big voice.
Yeah.
And then you see him, and he's like a kid, like a
with
little
giant
teenager
lips, and he's
dude.
Like super baby face, and
super nerdy looking. Like,
it sounds like it looks like he's lip syncing.
With his ginger haired, like he was just like, it was like if you're like, your girlfriend's sort of nerdy little brother like lip synced a song with like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And so people were, his theory was like just the visual disconnect between Rick Astley's appearance and that voice.
Yeah.
Just like it was such a gap between those two things in people's cognitive.
Yeah.
That was his theory about like why he never made another song. Really.
Is it true? He never did another song?
Not really. Like he tried, but nothing ever got any traction. Yeah.
And there is an earworm quality to that song. Like it does
definitely,
roll
but
off
there's a lot of earworm quality songs that aren't
dun,
iconic in that way, and that one really became. But anyway, I think you're right. I think it's like something about the way he looks, and he still looks young.
He looks so young. Do you know where that Rick Roll meme came from? Because that's something would be fun to dig in and find out, like historically.
Yeah.
Like, why do people start Rick rolling each other?
That's a good question.
Because it's such an obscure.
It's interesting. Like I remember, like when in the early days of the internet, the 70, 97, 98, 99. Just the meme culture back then was really hot. Like I can think of memes from that time, like "All Your Bass Are Belong to Us." Do you remember that one? Or the hamster dance.
Oh, the hamster dance. Yeah.
The people who did the flying toaster screensaver, they were the ones who started MoveOn.org.
Really?
Like, they took that. They made so much money from the toaster screensaver.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. They started MoveOn.org, huh?
Yeah, so that was what, they made a crazy amount of money like for a screensaver, but like all this stuff was so new back then. But yeah, there were tons of, there was a playful quality to the internet at that time.
One of my favorite ones.
It was definitely a playground.
I remember laughing. This was like, I feel like it was like 1998. Like I might have been on dial-up, like, you've got mail. Like, and that guy passed away, by the way. The voice of You've Got Mail.
Oh, really?
He just passed away.
I think I heard that, yeah.
Yeah. But so this one where I laughed and laughed and laughed.
I almost was like Tom Hanks died.
Oh, no. But I feel like, those times you laugh so hard you feel like you've pulled a muscle in your ribs.
Yeah,
Like it hurt so much. Yeah. And it was because of a site called, which is a mean site, but it was called mulletsgalore.com.
Oh, yeah, I remember Mullets.
Do you remember Mullets Galore?
Yeah.
And the dude was just...
And they had like a whole like taxonomy of different kinds of mullets.
Exactly. He was very, it was like Wikipedia of mullets. Mm-hmm. And he encouraged people to submit their own mullet photos, like he called it mullets in the wild. And people would just take a picture.
Yeah.
And there was like I remember the porn star mullet. There was like the 80s porn star mullet.
The hockey mullet.
Yeah. I actually asked my hairdresser if he could give me a sort of... I went in and I said, my hairdresser years ago would give me a thing called the Mick Jagger, where like I let my hair grow out a little bit. And it was Mick Jagger. And he goes, basically it's a mullet. It's a rock and roll mullet. And I was like, mullet, really? Yeah. And he cut it and he left the back so long that I had my wife trim it because it was embarrassing,
That's funny.
I even
remember seeing, like, I remember in New York, and I see this in San Francisco. Oh, sorry, you're finished your thought.
I was going to say, I asked the guy, I said, like, I like it, but the back is like just an inch too long. And he goes, well, you're trying to grow it out. I can't cut it now. You have to wait till next time. And I was like, you know how they sometimes
bully? It makes me
bully
think of more Rod Stewart than, like he had the spiky hair on top and the mullet in the back too. Remember, he had a pretty good mullet.
Oh, he had a great, that's the rock and roll mullet. But Mick Jagger's is a very
iconic
particular
rock and roll mullet. You were going for Mick Jagger because you have more curly hair than
and the thing about the Mick Jagger hair is that it's really long, but it looks like a normal haircut that grew out because it doesn't look like long hair you put in a ponytail. And that's
all the teenagers have these days have like the big hair on top and like sort of like trimmed on the sides, right? And I've heard so many people have different names for like the teenage, like the ubiquitous teenage boy haircut. Like one of my favorite ones is like they all get their haircut to look like broccoli. That's one of my favorites. And then I've seen some really funny pictures. There's like my teenage son has the same hairdo as his grandma. Like the old lady perm, that old women get.
There was a couple of times
pictures.
A couple of times when I would get my hair cut and I would come home and my daughters, I'd say, "What do you guys think?" And my oldest daughter would be like, "It's a little bit like a lesbian haircut." You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
she said it, I couldn't unsee it. I would be
Yeah.
like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
that sort of like middle-aged lesbian who's cleaned
There are
up.
some.
And, you know.
There is a look that some men get that makes them look like older women. Like I think Elon Musk has that somehow. Like he kind of just looks like a frumpy, like middle-aged woman a little bit.
Yeah, I don't see
Like
it.
if he wore mom jeans, he would just look like like sort of an older lesbian.
Wow,
You know,
interesting.
and I kind of I like to I like that for him. I think he would.
Yeah.
But there's also like the dudes who get plastic surgery a little bit, like what's his name?
Rob Lowe looks amazingly young for him.
Rob Lowe looks really good.
He's older
yeah.
than
Who's-
us, man. He has,
I'm
has
trying,
his
Bradley
own-
Bradley Cooper just got some like eye work done, and he looks. It's like people
He's
are saying
way
like,
too young, man.
doesn't
He's
he
like
know that
45.
like the eyelid droop, like this eyelid droop that I have, you know, like
Yeah, I have the same thing. I've always had it.
he got that fixed, right? And he
Okay.
looks ridiculous, and people were like, doesn't he know that like that's the thing that made him that made him good looking?
Yeah.
Like he got rid of literally the thing that made him good looking. Now he looks like, you know, Barry Manilow or whatever.
I did see a meme where he said people keep coming up to me and saying Barry, like they're teasing him because
He looks terrible. I mean, a lot of people are like, can you get that undone? Like,
I guess. But what's weird is he's way too young, isn't he? Like 45 or something.
Yeah, but I think he's dating some like, you know, 20-something chick or something. I think these, you know, sometimes these guys that like,
Who's that guy? Chris Evans just married like a 25-year-old Portuguese actress. And he's like, Chris Evans is the Silver Surfer, you know, that dude.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and
It's like,
he's like
there's
43.
so many Chris's out there.
It's so annoying because you look
Chris
at these
Pine,
guys,
Chris Pat,
and
Chris
they've
Evans,
been. You think of them as being like our
Yeah.
age,
Yeah.
and then you look and it's like they're 43. Holy cow!
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
be there, you know. And but anyway, yeah. The other weird thing is my oldest daughter in January will turn 31.
That's crazy.
She was born in 95, so yeah, she'll be 31.
Wow.
And that's really wild when like Mom
your
Donnie,
kids are in
Mom
your-
Donnie is
their
like
30s.
almost the same age as my daughter, you know, like,
Wow.
and I think like that makes me feel old, like that the
Mm-hmm.
mayor of New York is like the same age as my daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess
I,
I'm a
I
grandparent.
remember, you know, at some point, like, you know, at some point when you cross, I never had any aspirations to be a professional athlete. You know, that's laughable. But I do remember being aware of the ages of professional athletes
Yeah.
when I was first realizing, wait, I'm older than all these guys. You know, like I'd be watching a baseball game or I'd be like, shit, they're all like, you know, when guys would retire
Yeah.
from their sport and they're like 37, you know, and that's like really old for,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like professional athletes or something. You're like, man, he played till he was 37.
How do you pronounce the
They
name?
talk about it like they're so old.
LeBron James. Is it LeBron?
LeBron.
LeBron. Oh,
Yeah.
weird. I for some reason never knew that. But he's like, isn't he? His son is playing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
bizarre.
Like they
dude.
had this, and LeBron's still one of the best. That's the crazy thing. Like,
Yeah.
that dude's an Iron Man. Like
Isn't he?
Yeah.
Is he 43? I think he's 43 too.
I don't know. He
Which
might be,
which
yeah.
sounds ancient for like an NBA star. But
There's certain guys like LeBron James. You know, I think his conditioning. He's so rigorous and about his conditioning. So like the other guy that was famous for that in a different sport, Jaromir Jagr in hockey,
oh really?
retired really old.
Huh.
I think he was like even coaching, and then he came back and played again.
Wow.
Like and he was legendary for just his fitness regimen. Like, you know, I remember the Flyers. He was on the Flyers like toward the very end of his career. They just had him for a season or two, and the you know, the younger guys would be like, oh, you know, we tried to do Yaromir's fitness regimen with him, and they just like they couldn't do it. Right?
Oh shoot, man.
Yeah, so I think LeBron's a little bit like, supposedly a little bit like that. Just like the level of work he puts into his conditioning is crazy, supposedly.
Have
And
you
it's
ever-
paid off, obviously? Yeah.
We went. What was the guy's name? Brad, who was grandfathered and didn't have to wear a helmet. You and I went to
Brad Marsh, yeah.
Brad Marsh, yeah.
Yeah.
And didn't he end up hitting his head pretty hard against the boards or something?
No, I don't think. I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe
Yeah.
he did. I forget. But yeah, there was that whole whole period
Yeah.
where you could be grandfathered in and you didn't have to wear a helmet, but the
Right.
new guys did.
When the helmets were required, but like
Yeah.
there was just a handful of guys. That
It
were
made you
non-
seem
yeah.
so tough and so badass. And Brad Marsh was like was an enforcer. Like, wasn't he pretty?
Yeah.
Like, he was pretty tough.
He was a defenseman. I don't know if he was a fighter. He was a tough guy though.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
He wasn't. I don't know if he was an enforcer like as his role.
As
I
much-
remember there was another guy around that time, Ron Duguay, who was
I do
another.
remember Ron Duguay.
He was on the Islanders, I think, or the Rangers. He was one of the New York teams, and he had the serious hockey mullet. Like he had really long flowing hair in the back and short on top, but the long flowing hair. And he was another non-helmet guy.
Ooh,
so when he would like fly around the ice, his hair would be like sort of like beautifully waving behind him. Yeah.
It was really fun when I was back in September when I visited our friends in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Their son is a semi-pro hockey player, and he's down in, I think he's in Connecticut on a team for the year. And there were two. I was only there for a long weekend, but there were 2 nights that he was playing. They think they played 5 nights in a row, and so we watched his games, and it was just so fun. I hadn't watched hockey in like 30 years or something. It was just really fun to.
When you think about the journey like a pro athlete makes through the minors of their sport and all that, like you really have to love the sport.
Yeah.
Because just the amount of a grind you have to do to play with no reward to speak of for years. And a lot of those guys don't make it out of that. So they're just like, I guess they're just doing it for the love of it at some point.
Yeah, they told me that, I mean, and they've been, like, ever since he was a kid, he wanted to be a pro hockey player.
Yeah.
So they've been, taking him to camps and travel teams and stuff. And now I think he's in his early 20s. And it's a big step up because this team that is like a semi-pro, kind of like I don't know what they call that, a minor league team in the baseball.
Yeah.
And this coach is really well known for making stars.
There's a bunch of hockey minor leagues out there, yeah.
And supposedly most of the people on the team pay to be on his team because he's so good at getting you ready for
getting people up to the, yeah.
And this kid, Willem was able to get it for free. Like he offered to let him be on the team for free, which is kind of like a,
that says something, yeah.
It says something, but you still have to pay for room and board, I think. Like it's not easy to be working that hard, not having a job. Like who can do it? It's almost like you have to be like independently wealthy to.
Right. And then hockey itself is a kind of an expensive sport.
Yeah. So I mean, just to pay rent and drive around and pay gas and your it's just. What about health insurance? Like I don't think they cover. That seems like a really hard one.
Yeah, I don't know. At the minors, like for sure, it seems like who knows, right?
Because you could easily get hurt.
Like just, it seems like such a sacrifice and such a grind for the chance that you're going to make it. But then, you're playing games and games and games, and in front of 50 people for almost no money. Just, you know what I mean? Like you just have to love it that much to be willing to put that much work into something that is not paying you anything. And not guaranteeing you any kind of career or anything. Yeah.
That one of the things that that blew my wife away when I took my wife to Bernathen, our hometown outside of Philadelphia, for our 30-year reunion. So that was maybe, I don't know how many years ago that was. Yeah. We graduated in 87, so it must have been 2017, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we went there, and one thing that she noticed, what blew her away, she's like, it seems like a disproportionate number of people in this town play an instrument and sing. Like, why is that the case? And I couldn't explain why, other than that. I said, well, to graduate from high school, you actually have to take a test, like a singing test, and sing a choir, for the church, So that's a part of it. But then there were like a whole bunch of bands. Do you remember Gary Adams and Swirled Whale?
The Bostocks and...
I remember where you just mentioned that, like, so the Swirled Whale, the Bostocks, they were hired by the Lamoles to come play at some party, and we went down there, and there was like no one outside on the porch. Like everyone was inside chatting. And I went out and I was like, to Anders, I was like, does this bum you out? And he goes, no, when this happens, we take the money and we also just use it as a rehearsal. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because we don't, we've done a lot of shows.
Like, have you ever seen a band in that situation where, like, I don't know, there was an ice rink up here in Tahoe, that has live music sometimes. And especially like toward the end of the season when the days start to get sunny, there's still snow on the ground. People like that spring skiing, right? Yeah. There'll be like a live band and nobody's paying attention, right? But they are putting their heart and soul into it. Like there was a woman she sang "Me and Bobby McGee." You know,
Yeah.
that's a tough song.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she she poured her full soul into that song, and I just thought, like, kudos to this person. Like, there's literally nobody watching, and she's like, it was like an a Grammy performance she gave, no matter regardless of the crowd. I love that.
Do you remember?
I love people that are that committed.
Do you remember at your wedding, like maybe it was before like the rehearsal or something? We went over to the cousin's house and we did karaoke like all day long. We drank beer and we did karaoke.
Yeah.
And I came away, I think I've said this to you before, I came away with like, karaoke's really entertaining when you're really bad.
Yeah.
Or when you're really
good. Yeah.
But mediocre is kind of like, So anyway, my wife's
Filipinos are legendary at the karaoke.
Totally, and they did it literally
if you
all day long.
like go to YouTube or TikTok and you just search for Filipinos doing karaoke, you're like, holy shit. How are these people not all famous?
I know. It's true. Isn't the guy that replaced Steve Perry?
Yeah.
He's a Filipino. He
Arnel
sounds
Pineda.
amazing, dude.
Yeah, Arnel
He's
Pineda.
so good.
Yeah. And they
Olivia
found him on YouTube. That's how they
Olivia
found him.
Rodrigo is also, her dad's Filipino.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's such an interesting, so that's another question is like, okay, so our hometown had this disproportionate number of people who sang, and it was kind of like how green was my valley. Like everyone in Welsh little mining towns sang.
Yeah, we had lots of choirs and bands, and like you and I used to do our thing.
Yeah,
and there were tons
and
of
the
people
stairwell,
that did that.
we
Yeah.
did the guitar, and fun. And they had little coffee houses where we'd sing and stuff. But anyway, so there's that. But I was thinking about, I saw, I think Gary Adams, and I remember when he was playing, he had like some kind of, or he was trying to sound like, who's the guy who used to be in Genesis, the original, Peter Gabriel.
Oh, Peter Gabriel.
He had like a couple of songs that sounded a little Peter Gabriel-esque, and his voice could go there.
Yeah.
And I always remember thinking like we always wondered like who in our town would make it big, like become like a world class star, like
Yeah.
And what does that take? Like why do some people become a star and some people don't, or and I wondered also like what I saw a picture of him on Facebook or something, and I thought, wow, I didn't recognize him. He looks a lot different.
Yeah.
But I thought like I wonder it'd be interesting the journey that person took to like decide like I'm not going to be a professional musician anymore, because I think at one point he was trying to be like he had a band and make albums and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you remember how expensive it used to be to make
It's just like
an
a
album?
lightning in a bottle thing. It seems like,
Yep.
there's definitely people who are not super talented who work really hard. I mean, it's sort of like the old quadrant diagram I draw sometimes for people, where it's like good at your career, good at your job, right? Like some people are really good at their career, but they're not great at, they're not that talented. They're just really good at their career. And that's a skill, right? And so you definitely have a lot of people. And I think the internet provides a vehicle for a lot of people who aren't that talented to become really famous, because they just have this gift for getting attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then there's other people who are really good at stuff, but don't do any work, don't put any effort into getting attention. Like I think of the guy who used to run the theater company in Tempe. Mm-hmm. Just an incredibly talented writer. Like he was so prolific.
I remember, yeah.
And
he passed away.
He
passed away, right?
What's that?
He passed away.
Mike, yeah, Mike Fenlison, R.I.P. So, but he was so talented and so smart and quick-witted. Like he's just one of those people that had charisma, natural charisma, and just tons of talent. And I mean, like just to give an example, we would be like wrapping up a play, a run of a play, and have nothing to do next, right? And he'd be like, "Oh shoot, we need a new play," and then. He'd be like, does anybody have one that they're close to finishing? And if nobody did, he'd be like, I guess I'll write one. And then like 3 days later, he would have a play that was great. Like it had problems, like any first draft might.
Yeah.
But like the idea was amazing and original, and the characters were like pretty fleshed out. And you're like, holy shit, like he wrote that in 2 days? Like he literally could write he would just crank out a play in 2 days, and it would just be like almost effortless for him. And then there was another guy for the theater company who was, he was a fine writer, but he just like he was more ambitious, and he got a TV writing job. And I remember Mike Fenlison was sort of like was envious of that. Like, how does that guy and I don't? But Mike, the difference was Mike put zero effort. He just sort of had this like sort of magical belief that like if I'm good at stuff, like I'll get discovered eventually, right? Like I'm good at this, and if it happens, it happens. He just put zero effort. So I think like that's a part of it. It's just people, if you put effort into it. But then obviously Gary Adams, it sounded like he was trying, and it didn't pan out for whatever reason. So I who knows what the magic is.
What was I going to say? When do you remember? So we have this friend who's, the uncle. He's a great uncle to my daughters. But Noel, remember Noel Rhodes?
Yeah, he's another one who's just so talented.
And I wonder if I know what I was going to say is that George Clooney tells a story about his career, and he said Johnny Depp came from Florida and he was in L.A. for 2 weeks delivering pizzas for 2 weeks. And then he was invited to a poker game with some other friends, and Nicolas Cage was there. Yeah. And Nicolas Cage said, "Hey, you want to be an actor? You should come audition for this role that they're looking for someone." And it was 21 Jump Street. Yeah. So he did 2 weeks of pizza delivery, and then he was like famous.
Brad Pitt's arc was similar too. Like he was a limo driver and met somebody, because if you're gonna meet famous people, like be a limo driver, right?
Right.
Anyway,
Harrison Ford was a carpenter. That's how he would remodel people's houses, and they'd be like, "This guy's really good," and then he. Anyway, so then George Clooney says, my aunt Rosemary Clooney was really famous as a jazz singer.
Oh yeah.
That didn't help at all. He goes, for something like he had white hair when he got the ER role. And he was like, I was doing singing telegrams. Like I was busting my ass for so like decades. And like why? Like why does it's just such an interesting thing because now he's so
such
famous.
A talent. Like he's not just an actor, but like a writer and director. Like
you wonder like why it took so long. And
what is the magic? Yeah, it just seems like it just seems like lightning just strikes sometimes in this world.
Who is the beautiful blonde woman that was in Mulholland Drive, and was born in England?
Laura Dern.
No, Mulholland Drive. She's British.
Oh.
She was born in England, and maybe lived in Australia for a while.
Nicole Kidman?
Not Nicole Kidman. She looks very much like Nicole Kidman. Anyway, she actually
Laura
says
Dern's in a lot of David Lynch movies.
Yeah, but she's a little bit younger than this woman. This woman is our age, and anyway, so I'll put it in the notes. But she also tells that story like she was like a waitress for 20 years in LA, going to auditions, and then she got Mulholland Drive, I think, is what made her famous,
Interesting.
Yeah, it took her a really long time.
Was it I can't remember. Was it the same one in LA Confidential, that woman who was in Mulholland Drive? I thought that was Laura Dern. I can't remember.
No.
Anyway, we should look
You're
it up.
thinking of with Nicolas Cage when they run across the country. What's that? The David Lynch one where there's like a terrifying, it's like really scary. Right. That was probably I wouldn't say my favorite David Lynch one, but it was the one that I couldn't forget. Like it really shook me, all of the scary part. That Willem Dafoe has a scene where he sort of molests Laura Dern with a really scary like voice in close proximity, and it just shook me to my core. Like I've never kind of been able to forget.
I know I remember that. Yeah.
Ooh, he had like really nasty fake teeth that were like dirty, and he just was like threatening her in this horrible way. It was so nasty.
He died too, right? David Lynch recently?
Yeah, I think he passed away not that long ago. Such an interesting dude. He had a comic strip for a long time called The Angriest Dog in the World.
Yeah,
and it was just the dog was always growling like that, and he would write.
It was like the same frame in every
same frame.
Right? He would just have a different caption, right?
Pretty much. Different caption. But basically, it was. I think when it because I really for a very long time wanted to be a cartoonist. Like my dad really loved political cartoons, and when he saw that I could draw in that kind of funky way, he was like, "Why don't you be a political cartoonist?" And I don't know why I never really.
There's such an art to like the New Yorker has the caption contest.
I didn't know that.
So the New Yorker has at the end of every issue they have the caption contest. So it's one of their cartoonists will make a cartoon.
And you have to write the caption.
And people send in captions, right? And then so like if you look in any issue of the New Yorker, they'll have like last week's winner or this week's winner, and it'll be like the chosen caption for the, and then they have 3 different. It's a cycle of 3. So like for each issue, they'll have the winner of the caption contest. They'll have the finalists for the next one. So it'll be the 3 finalists that they narrowed it down to.
Yeah.
And then they have the new one that has just no caption there at all, that is ready to be, for people's submissions. And I look at these and I just think, when I see the 3 finalists of each, I'm like, damn, like people are good. Like,
yeah, they're coming up with,
there's a gift, yeah. And a friend of mine has a joke, because he's a friend who's a super funny dude, also very smart and quick. And he and I were having the same conversation about like, how are people good at this? Like, I feel like it's something I would be good at, like looking at the picture and coming up with the good caption. And I just like, I got nothing when I see it. And I look at the things that people come up with, like, shit, that's so good. And so my friend's like, yeah, my caption for all of them, and it works actually every time, is go fuck yourself. And I test that out on every single one now. Like I'll look at the image that, of the cartoon that's been provided for the caption contest, and I thought, what if the caption was go fuck you? And I was like, it works. It kind of works. Yeah.
It's funny because so for years and years I just imagined that that's what I would be when I grew up, was a political cartoonist.
Yeah.
And so in one way, and I don't mean this in like, I'm not self-disparaging myself, but like I'm being perfectly honest with myself. Like I give myself a task where I'll make my parents a cartoon for their birthday. Mm-hmm. Like I'll make usually it's my mom and my dad in the cartoon, and they're saying something, right? And I would say like, I could show you.
I like your drawing of your dad with the beard.
Oh yeah, that was always he's such an iconically odd. Yeah. Like Everett Koop beard,
I can. Yeah.
And he also had black hair for a long time and a white beard, which was so odd and unique.
Right, very striking. Yeah.
His hair was black a lot longer than mine. Like my hair was gray before his turned gray, which is odd, very odd. But he had a white beard. Anyway, so I do these cartoons, and I mean, I'm giving it to them as a gift. It's like a sweet little inside joke and stuff like that. But I can tell that and it's funny because last time we were talking about like, or not having that sort of comeback, like the ability to come back quickly and think about it later. Well, in a cartoon, you have all the time in the world to think of it. And I think that mine always feel kind of like a little bit like a dad joke.
There's just such, I don't know what it is. There's like a specific skill and art to it. Yeah, because again, like I look at these caption contests, and when I was talking to my friend about it, who I mentioned, like I just thought, oh, he's a guy who, just knowing how smart and quick he is, and how, he's like Mike Fenelson, and he just has so many references that he's so quick at getting from the world, like movies and culture and books, and he speaks like 3 languages, and so like he's just one of these people that I think, oh, I bet he nails the caption contest. I bet he's so good at it. And I was like, oh, I bet you're good. And he's like, oh, I'm terrible at it. I don't know how people do that. Huh. And he's the guy who was like, I just say, go fuck yourself as the caption, and it kind of works every time. I was like,
that's good.
So at least that was funny. But like, yeah, it's just interesting. I don't know what that talent is, but some people have it. And TikTok comments are a whole genre too. Are you ever?
I've never really.
I don't spend a ton of time on social media, but like I spend 5 minutes on TikTok a day because I have a screen time limit on it at 5 minutes.
Oh, nice.
So I do hit my limit pretty much every day. So I'll spend 5 minutes on it.
Okay.
And there's just certain videos where you watch the video and you go, oh, the comments are going to be good on this one. Like you rush to the comments. And there is like, the TikTok community just is killing it in the comments. I don't know why the crowd of TikTokers is so good at commenting, but I don't know. Sometimes that's like a whole genre in itself. And the comments sometimes just have me doubled over on certain videos where I'm just like, the video is funny, but then I hit the comments and I literally, just what you said, like I'm literally doubled over laughing because the comments are so good.
That's good. Yeah. One thing that I have been very successful at when I was like a dad of small children and teenagers is I had this thing, I loved to make up jingles, like little catchy songs, earworm songs, about what we were doing, like about the family, and the people in the family. Yeah. And so one thing I requested was that my daughters and my wife, if they would please at my memorial, they would each pick one of the silly songs and they would actually sing it for the group, because they know that that's like a huge part of me and my personality and like what I've done.
Yeah.
But as a parent, I feel like that was a unique. But the other thing that I used to joke with the girls is, I would say it's always funny if you just add .com to the end of everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is funny.
It is funny, yeah.
It's funny.com. Like it's just I think what makes it funny for me is that there was a period there, like maybe before the .com boom, like the 2000s, when everyone was trying to make the next web app, like the next website. And so they were just slapping .com onto so many things that it just became kind of ridiculous,
Totally. Yeah. And we're definitely in, it feels like there's something about this current AI era that feels a little bit like the .com
Oh my gosh,
bubble.
yeah.
People are talking about this bubble. But yeah, but I do remember that, like everything was .com. And then just like the naming trends, it was like, who can come up with because there was also a thing back then, there was just like, because I remember buying domain names for clients back then, right?
Yeah,
and there was a company called Princeton Video Image, right? And they're like, well, we want to be PVI.com. And I'm like, well, PVI.com's already taken, right? And so back then, you just would never have considered being PrincetonVideoImage.com. Because it's like, we can't have a long name.
Because Google wasn't as good, so people had to type it out.
So people would come up with the most fucked up, dumb things just to be shorter than a long name. Like, not realizing like being memorable is better than being short. But so like, just the crazy, I don't know. I wish I could think of more, but
I liked the period
so
where,
many back then with weird spellings of things. And
when like everyone had bought all of like the names that anyone could think of, sort of there's that period there. And so people started doing it like radio would be RD,
RDIO.
And it was, that was like a new trend, was to like try to whip.
Or like getting rid of the E before E, anything that ended in ER, that was a big thing, like Flickr, right?
Oh, yeah.
There were tons of them that were like Checker and Flickr and Fiverr, right? And it would just be like, just whatever, like if it had an ER, you would spell it without the E before the R, right?
Yeah.
That was the thing on millions of them, yeah.
That's pretty funny. We were talking about George Clooney and when you were talking about Paul Rudd, didn't Paul Rudd at one point win Sexiest Man Alive?
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to say is, I don't know why I was thinking of this, but do you remember the Brady Bunch episode where Greg becomes a rock star for a while?
Yeah.
And like basically they're like, why did you pick me? And he's like, because you fit the suit. Like we'll make you the star. And like when they walked in, all these women like ripped his clothes, and they're like, like they sort of built him up. And so I was thinking, like, it is kind of interesting how Hollywood, like when they decide that someone is going to be a star, with the sheer force of will of Hollywood, they can make like Paul Rudd is not particularly like, an iconically handsome person,
he's not an iconically handsome person, but it's not the most handsome person alive. That's the thing. It's the sexiest man alive, right?
And there is,
and so I think actually with somebody like Paul Rudd, they nail it better than with some of their picks, because
that's true.
When you think of like what and he's total, like women love Paul Rudd because it makes me think of The Tao of Steve. Do you ever watch that old movie, The Tao of Steve?
No.
So it's just like this guy. He's like a kind of just a regular looking dude, like a normal dude, but all the women love him. And so like somebody in the movie, the premise is he's trying to teach somebody like they're like, why are so many women attracted to you? Like they're just mystified. How does he get all the girls to like him? And because it just doesn't seem, and he's like, all right, I'll teach you that's the Tao of Steve. His name's Steve, right? And so his first lesson is be excellent. So he's like, just be good at something, like get noticed, basically.
Okay.
Get noticed for something that is excellent. And then, so be excellent is the first thing. And the second lesson was be gone. So like you disappear after you be excellent. And it's like, who was that guy?
Who was that guy? Yeah. That's pretty funny.
Right? So like, that's kind of his thing. Be excellent, be gone. I forget what the third one is. But anyway, I just, like Paul Rudd, I don't know, makes me think of Prof G. He was talking about like what makes, Prof G's one of his whole things is like his whole manosphere, pushing back on the manosphere and like what men really should be and stuff.
Yeah.
And his thing is like men what makes a man attractive to a woman is resources, or like some perception that he has the ability to get resources, money, right, or a career or whatever. Intellect, and you say, what's the quickest way to show intellect, to demonstrate you have intellect? To be funny. Like if you're good at making people laugh, you're obviously, you have intellect, right? You have a kind of like a sharpness to you, right? Your intellect. And then the third one is kindness. And I don't know if I agree with Prof G's whole ranking of all that, but like I think there's no doubt that like being funny and being kind are really attractive qualities, and Paul Rudd's got those things in his, like, that's his vibe, right?
Another one I remember was like, because absolutely straight out of the box in Thelma and Louise, Brad Pitt was like stunningly handsome, right?
Yeah.
Like Robert Redford just passed away.
I mean, that's why he got discovered in that limo, because they were just like, you are so good looking, you should be in front of a camera. Yeah.
Robert Redford just passed away, and my wife really loves this show, Dark Winds, about the Navajo.
Yeah.
And Diné people, and he has a cameo. He and what's the guy who wrote the funny looking guy with the white beard that wrote Game of Thrones?
Yeah, George R.R. Martin. Yeah.
Yeah. So Martin and Robert Redford are the co-executive producers of Dark Winds.
Yeah.
So they did a cameo in the last episode, like this is season 3, and I'm looking at and my wife says, "Wow, is that Robert Redford?" And he's just passed away.
Yeah.
And he was 93, I think, 93. But he had this like this wrinkliness to his face that was just gorgeous. Like the older he got, the handsomer he became as an old man. You know what I mean? How people that
Paul
happens to
Newman
people-
was like that too. I mean,
We're
speaking
like-
of those two guys as
it's
friends,
like-
yeah.
Yeah.
He aged well, so to speak, right?
But like he didn't not have wrinkles. He just had the most beautiful wrinkles. Like you wanted to look, like dive into them. Like they were and they were placed in the perfect place. There wasn't like a giant one that made his chin look funny. They were just like
looked like it was
perfect.
like an artist rendered his wrinkles.
Exactly. It was so impressive. And so I almost for a second didn't recognize him, because I was like, no, that can't be Robert Redford. He has too many wrinkles.
No, he was so perfect. And what was that movie he did a few years ago where it was just him on a boat in a storm, right?
Oh wow! I haven't seen that yet.
Like not many guys could pull off a movie where they're just all he did was battle the storm. I don't even know if the movie had any lines in it.
Wow, that is hard. Yeah,
because he was by himself, right? He had no one to talk to. It wasn't Tom Hanks with a volleyball. Like he didn't get shipwrecked and was talking to a ball. He just was in the ship. But you're like, he has that. It's like that sailor quality to his face. Like man, weathered in the most beautiful way. Yeah.
But so I was thinking about, so for some reason Leonardo DiCaprio came up for me, because I watching Gilbert Grape. You saw that film when he was he played this.
Yeah, he was young, and he was one of those guys who just looked young. He looked like a boy in every movie. I remember, like in Titanic, I just didn't buy that he was.
Yeah, and
like
I always thought he was
lead with
kind of
Kate Winslet,
funny looking. Like, like he was like a skinny little funny looking guy.
He looked like he was 12 and she looked like a woman, even though they're probably the same age, but he looked like he was 12.
I felt like Hollywood just decided, like, this guy can act and we're going to make him sexiest man alive, even though he's not particularly...
No.
I just don't... he's not like Brad Pitt and he's not like Robert Redford.
No, he's not.
But he just is like a character actor that is really good.
Talented.
He's very talented.
But I had trouble watching him for a while, where he was like playing these adult roles, but to me he still looked like a boy for so long.
Interesting.
Yeah, like Ralph Macchio kind of thing. Like it was the same. Like if Ralph Macchio was doing a bunch of movies as a serious, like when he was Howard Hughes, I just couldn't do it. Right. But like
interesting.
In his more recent movies, like that one he did with
He's our age, right? Isn't he like 55, 56?
Probably. I don't know. I think he's younger than us. Yeah,
a little bit. He's in his 50s, for sure.
But yeah, he like his latest ones. I think I really enjoyed watching him. It was the Native American one, the Scorsese film.
Oh wow, yeah, the Apple TV, yep.
Yeah, that was cool.
Lily Gladstone.
And I want to see the new one he's in. What's it called? One Battle After Another, I think it's called.
Yeah, I really want to see that too.
I want to see
the theaters.
Paul Thomas Anderson, right?
Yep. Yeah. That looks amazing. But so Lily Gladstone was right after she did that film, she came to town for a wedding. I think one of the directors was getting married, or one of the people who in one of her other films, was getting married. And he lives in Tucson, down the street from us. So we all went to this our local kind of pub, our mezcal pub, and she was there. And what was interesting was she had just won an Academy Award for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
And
That's what it was called, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember thinking like there was this. I don't know. Do you remember when we were in New York? How like New Yorkers were like too cool to acknowledge a famous person. Like they would never be. Like you had to just be like whatever. You know,
I don't know if it was a too cool thing. I don't know. We didn't do it for sure. We didn't.
I think I thought I was too. Like I was just like I'm not gonna like demean myself.
I used to say famous people in the Gotham Book Mart a lot. I think for me, my impulse was like, why bother them? You know.
Yeah, or also just like what's the point? Like
what's the point? Like you see famous people quite a bit there, so maybe that's part of it. Is just like it's not.
If I ever did say something to someone, I might have just as an aside. Let's say I was standing next to David Byrne or something, like because he would be like doing film shoots in our neighborhood, and I would walk the pugs, and he would always talk to the pugs. He wouldn't acknowledge me, but he'd be like, wow, aren't you a funny looking person? And he would just like talk to the pugs, and I'd be awesome. Like, I'm here, but the thing was that I would say to them, I would be like, I really liked what you did in that film or something. It was cool. Yeah. Like as if you're like also just another. Not like a fan who's starstruck, but just someone who.
Did I ever
really
tell you about my Tom Waits riding the elevator in our building experience?
Oh,
I probably
for
had years ago.
The Dark Rider. I don't remember exactly. Dark Rider.
Yeah, no, I got in the elevator and he was
Wilson.
in the. Yeah, he was in the
Wilson's
elevator.
apartment was across.
They were
from
working together, right? Yeah, but I loved Tom Waits back in that time, right?
Yeah, me
and
too.
So, like that was a little bit of a starstruck kind of moment where I was like, oh shit, I'm in the elevator with somebody who I really admire, and. Remember the janky elevator at Investor Street in our building?
So creepy.
So it starts moving. The doors close. It starts jostling up the elevator shaft. And Tom Waits in his just like perfect Tom Waits voice goes, "Are we going to make it?" And I was just like, oh man, this is a lifelong moment right here.
Totally. Yeah. I feel like, so he came to do The Dark Rider with Robert Wilson. And we went to the show. We went and watched it. And then there was a party across the hall, which was Robert Wilson's like sort of, flop house. Like, he didn't live there, but, and he passed away recently, I think. I saw.
Robert Wilson did?
I believe so.
I didn't know. Yeah.
But he,
and Merce Cunningham was the third collaborator in that, I think, right?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that could make sense. Yeah. But anyway, I feel like there was a party, and Barbara and Guylaine went to the party, and I feel like we went over and said, "We just want to meet Tom Waits. Like, where's Tom Waits?
Yeah.
And then the people were like, "Well, it's Robert Wilson's party. Like, I mean, he's not here." It was just like an interesting thing where we were interested in going, but not because it was Robert.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. But I mean, we had our plenty of run-ins with famous people. Like, remember Barbara was dating Chris Rock for a little bit.
Oh yeah. Was Chris?
And then she was dating the Black Flag guy, Henry
Rollins.
Henry Rollins a little bit.
Interesting. Wow.
Very briefly, or like she hooked up with him or something, or I don't know.
I don't remember that, but
because he was the musical guest on one of the Saturday Night Lives, and she was really good looking. She had that Sinead O'Connor look when she shaved her head, but like.
Well, she was in.
And she just was naturally good looking. But anyway, she had, I think, those.
She had been in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I think she's in.
She is.
Had been in 2 films as like a teenager.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so she was like into acting, and that's. And I feel like when she got to NYU, she decided not to do acting, even though that she had already been like. Maybe it was Hairspray, or she was in something like Hairspray or Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Anyway, she what were we going to say? My former brother-in-law was really good friends with Paulina Poroskova's brother, his little brother, and Paulina Poroskova was Rick Ocasek's wife for decades, right? And they lived in Gramercy Park, and so when he was in college, the two of them would go over to Rick Ocasek's house to steal weed because he had in the basement he had a fridge. That had like giant bags of weed, and they would just come and get a bag of weed and take it back up to school. They're going to school at Sarah Lawrence. Yeah. And so while they were in the elevator at the Gramercy, the park, in walks Weezer, because he was producing bands at the time. He did Bad Brains. He had produced.
Yeah.
He did Weezer, and it was before Weezer. The Sweater Song had hit big, and so his friend was like, "Hey, there's this new band that my brother-in-law's producing. You should check them out sometime." And the guy had the guitar and he was playing the Sweater Song.
Oh wow!
In the elevator.
The Song Exploder Weezer episode is really good too. When you hear how that guy composes lyrics, it's crazy.
I would love to hear that.
He has a spreadsheet of just phrases that work for different syllable rhythms, and so he'll be like, I need like a 5-syllable like da 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 da, and he'll go through his spreadsheet and be like, oh, that works.
So it's kind of mathematical about it,
he
and
just
he
pieces it together, and he's like,
chunks it together.
If it sounds like it vaguely makes sense, then he'll just keep that lyric in there. Like his songs are about nothing.
I kind of like they're catchy, but they are kind of about nothing.
They're about nothing, and that's his process. He's like, he writes the melody first, and then he's like, this melody needs like a 5-syllable line right here. Okay, and then he goes through his spreadsheet and he finds one that sort of vaguely works with the previous line.
The absolute
wild
polar opposite of that, and I've probably written like 36 songs and recorded rough takes of them, and I have, so we've talked about like Paul Simon's process where he had that yellow legal pad.
Yeah,
he would sit in a rocking chair and bounce a racquetball against the wall, and then he would write on the legal pad, and he would take passes where he would take his favorite lines. And he would move them down as he flipped over. He'd move them, and he pretty much used the whole legal pad for one song. And I remember reading that in like Rolling Stone or something, and I was like, damn, like I maybe use like the 2 sides of a piece of paper and like maybe an envelope. And I was like, what would happen if I actually made myself go all the way through a legal pad and take the best stuff forward? Like, what would it? Would it be good? Like, because I don't have the discipline and I don't have the interest.
Yeah.
But if you hear that, you're like, I wonder if I just did it once, like to see if how good it could actually get to like revise it that much and for one song,
Yeah, interesting.
Maybe it would get stale and painful, and you would just abandon it. I don't know.
Maybe, it's like I keep writing the same thing over and over again, like.
Right, but it sounded like that he'd been using that method for decades. And it worked for him.
It's just like each artist, I guess, has their thing. But yeah, it's interesting. Song Exploder is such a great podcast when you hear like the different processes.
It's so fun, yeah.
Roald
Dahl, the author Roald Dahl, had this little shack after he was successful. This little like writing shack that was tiny, like maybe like 6 by 6.
Okay.
And he loved to smoke, and he would go up, get his coffee, and he'd walk up to the shack.
Yeah.
And he'd go in there, and he had to have these sharpened pencils. He would write longhand with pencils. And he would get into this chair, and it was so kind of awkward like that. He made it so that it was hard to get out of, like he kind of had to slide his way into the desk.
So he trapped himself.
So he sort of trapped himself, and he would get all comfortable, and then he would just sit there and smoke and drink coffee and just write and write and write longhand,
Wow, cool.
The other thing that I thought was interesting about his work is how much the editor makes a difference. So like when he passed away, I remember sitting up and read a couple, like his biography. I had this biography, and when he passed away, I always was a big fan of his. And he tells the story about how, for like some of his most famous, iconic characters and films, like James and the Giant Peach or Matilda or something, how that he wrote it in a really dark way, and then the editor was like, no one's going to like that. You need to make it funnier. Like you need to, and he'd be like, but I'm not, so like they would sort of battle back and forth over. And what it ended up being was kind of a collaboration between the editor forcing him to change it.
Yeah.
And you wonder, like, that just seems, I guess, as you're saying, like everyone has their own method or process.
Yeah, I mean, and you do hear stories of authors that have like these really intimate, sometimes tense relationships with editors, but intimate and tense in a productive way, where there's a tension there, and they're negotiating things, and then we talked about this before. There's just other authors that would really benefit from a harder editing, right?
Ouch!
Stephen King and John Irving we mentioned, right? Yeah.
Right. Ouch. It's true, and it's funny how Yeah, that's one thing. Both of us, as on our bucket list, we need to put a novel into the can. I feel like ever since I was in high school, I've been wanting to write novels, and I found like when I studied creative writing in college, I found that I didn't really have the like my you know how like you go to have you ever taken drawing classes and you study like figure drawing?
Yeah.
And there's like a gesture drawing that's meant to last for 15 seconds with charcoal, like on a newsprint.
Yeah.
And then you do it again, and they use 15 seconds long. And then they make them longer, like there's a 5-minute one and a 20-minute one. I felt like I was really free and great at the gesture ones. Not like technically that good, but just felt free. And
Like
the longer
it was
they
doing
got,
something for you. Yeah.
the longer that the drawings got, the stiffer mine became, and like the sort of more awkward and the poor proportions, and the 20 minutes ones, just other people just got better and better, and mine got worse and worse.
Interesting.
And I felt like with writing, I could write like. Do you remember we used to write those?
Like the chain stories and
novel in like a single sentence, like they were like two.
Yeah.
Like you once wrote one.
Yeah.
Or what was Garrison Keillor said, the car swerved off the road into the yellow flowers. Some roads aren't there. And like, it's like there's a whole novel in one. That's sort of, that's haiku-esque, by the way. Very haiku-esque.
Yeah. You know, I think, I don't know, like I've written a lot of stuff.
Plays and poems.
Well, and I've written, I've made progress on novels, you know, up to 30, 40, 50,000 words. I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit like, right now I'm working on like a sci-fi thing, like a more of a genre thing. And, which is cool. I mean, but there are stories I have in my head that are more literary that I, you know, like I have stuff that I've started to work on or I've sketched out or I've made, you know, and I don't know, how do you think about like, how do you sort of think about the tension between doing something just because it's in you versus doing it to go somewhere, to have a future, to have to get published, basically, like for example, right? So the thing that is discouraging a little bit is I keep hearing people inside the publishing industry talk about how broken the publishing industry is right now and how Nepo it is, and how, like, I mean, I hate to say this because it sounds like one of these fucking right-wing anti-woke people, but like, for white males in particular, it seems like white males had their heyday in the literature, in American, you know, contemporary
like
literature,
1895 to 1956.
to like 5 minutes ago, right? Yeah. So it's like there's this kind of like, you know, I think there's a needed balance. There's a needed sort of like pushback and balance on that. We need to hear lots of other voices, right? But it does seem to be the reality right now that if you're a white dude, you can't get a novel published. And the one exception to that is genre fiction. Like the Halo guy, you know, like I forget his name, Hank. Can't remember his name. The guy who wrote Halo, the book the books that the Halo series on Apple TV is from. So he's an interesting dude because he's self-published, right? And Andy Weir, the guy who wrote The Martian, you know, the movie that the book that the movie was made with Matt Damon, right? That was a self-published book, right? And it was just good, and it got an audience because it was good and people wanted to read it, right? And then eventually, because enough people were reading it, publishing houses like picked it up. But those guys, like, I forget the Halo guy's name, but and Andy Weir, like, they started in self-publishing. And so I've heard them talk about it many times too, where they're like, yeah, if you're a literary author, you're just like, if you don't have an established career already, like, or if you don't work like up through the ranks of like the Iowa Writers Workshop and all that shit, like, forget about it. You're just never going to get a book published in literary fiction. But like, because there's no mainstream audience for literary fiction. You kind of have to be accepted into the academia audience a little bit.
I see.
But there's a mainstream audience for genre fiction, mysteries, thrillers, sci-fi, fantasy. And so basically their thing is like, hey, yeah, if you're like, you know, if you can make a bit of a career out of that in genre, you just like, not in literary. So like, I don't know. I guess that's a long way of saying, like, I do have literary stories in me, but I don't know. Like, I could work on them for myself because I like the stories, but I don't know. I told you I had some short stories I was going to send you. I need to do that, but
yeah, I would love. That would be fun. We were thinking about just because for me, because you mentioned that about the publishing industry, but I've also heard that, for instance, you'll find tons of articles and videos on YouTube about how Hollywood is just dead right now. Like it's just the old Hollywood has gone away, and the other one is the music industry. I mean, there's no one can make any money except for Taylor Swift. Like, it's like, how do you?
Well, even like the guy, I remember like during the writer's strike, when the one of the writers on that show, The Bear, he wrote a piece about the writer's strike and like why writers are striking. And so he was writing on a show that's like getting Emmys and talked about, hugely critically acclaimed, a successful streaming show, right? And he was like, I have 3 roommates and I am basically on like SNAP benefits. Like, this is a successful writer.
Yeah, no, I heard.
He's like, we don't make any money. Like, and the studios want to pay us even less than we're making.
Right.
He's like, I'm on a successful show and I barely make enough to pay rent with my 2 roommates.
So remember a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about, I said, like, it seems like capitalism always sort of eventually through this historical arc arrives back at feudalism.
Yeah.
Where like the wealth is concentrated in a tiny few. I feel like we're there now. When I hear those kind of stories, I'm like, because I thought if you were a TV writer, you had like a Lamborghini, but you're not.
No, you're a writer, you're essential. In my mind, you're like a TV show with poor acting and good writing can still be a great show. A TV show with really poor writing and good acting is not a good show. Like,
right, yeah.
So like, I think the writer job maybe is the most important job on a TV production or a movie. And, maybe cinematography is really big on your list too, for sure. Right. But like, these are artists and, it's just crazy. They just don't get paid. Like the actors have enough clout that they can demand, like if they're successful enough, they can demand. But writers, even when they're successful, are kind of viewed as like a commodity. Like, that guy wants more money, so we'll just get rid of him and we can get another guy that's just as hungry. It's hungry and, willing to do it, right? It's just as talented.
I remember, so when I really wanted to be an illustrator for magazines back before the .coms blew up and the magazine, that was a thing, right? I worked for the Otney Reader and for like if I got a cover, that was a big deal. If I got a cover, they would pay me $1,000 or $1,500 for like the cover of the Otney Reader.
Yeah.
And, and it was like 600,000 people read it, or it was like, not 1 million people, but, and I remember reading this article. This was way back in the 90s. This was like 1997, right? Yeah. This article was, he said, I was part of the Graphic Design Guild, which was this group of graphic designers, right? And so they had this newsletter, and this guy wrote a really interesting essay where he said, if you map the pay, like if you got the cover of a magazine in 1935, you got paid $1,000 and you could buy a fucking house.
Yeah.
Like you could buy a house, like a little bungalow in the suburb. Like you know what I mean?
Your paycheck from getting
from
cover.
One cover. And there were a lot less magazines and there was a lot more demand for them, right? So he goes, as the explosion of, I guess it was print technology and this and that, and then of course along comes the internet, but it just went, the price stayed the same, but what you could buy with that $1,000 was, became almost nothing, right?
Yeah.
So
it's crazy. I mean, we are at this feudalist moment, like you say. I think there seems to be, we're at an inflection point for sure. It seems to be a lot of people understand that are feeling how unsustainable this is. Yeah. Like in a more and more acute ways. And that feeling is percolating up from like the working class people who've been struggling for always, right. And it's percolating up through people who make $200,000 a year and still are struggling. You know what I mean? Right. Like, because university tuitions cost insane amounts and all like, so I think like, and childcare and all these things that like, even if you make that much money, like it's just stuff that feels like normal expenses are almost at the edge of your income, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that we're starting to reach some sort of inflection point, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Do you have a first world
with
problem?
like Mom Donnie and stuff? So I'm feeling a little bit like maybe we should retire first world problems after a little bit, but yeah, I have a what did I have? Oh yeah, just my do not disturb. I have my mindfulness setting on do not disturb. While I was meditating today, I got 2 phone calls and a text message, and I was like, why are these coming through my mindfulness setting? So I got to go. That's my first world problem. I got to figure out my mindfulness setting. But what I was going to do is say, like, if we think about maybe switching to a different ending other than first world problems,
that's
fine.
I
was thinking maybe we could just like recommend something that we read or or listened to during the week, and like
kind of like
so.
A
my
book
recommendation is a new podcast that it's a new podcast, but I discovered it recently, and I think there's only 3 episodes now. It's called Skin Wigs.
Skin Wigs.
It's just 2 British comedians. And you got me thinking about it, actually, because you were talking about like when you die, like your songs or whatever, or like your.
I wanted my daughters and my wife to play one of the songs at my memorial. Like, just I thought it'd be really fun.
So the episode I listened to it's this guy, a British guy, and a younger woman, and he was like, "Oh, your dad died recently," and she said, "Yeah," and he goes, "Well, you had a box of his stuff that you just didn't feel like you had it in you to go through. It was just like a box of junk, and you gave it to me. And so I actually went through it. And one of the things I found was a CD that your dad had made, and it says, 'Listen After I Die.' So I haven't listened to it yet, but let's go. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't know if it was a real CD or if the comedian, but it was so... This podcast, I'm going to be completely addicted to it, I think. It's called Skin Wigs.
Skin Wigs. I love it. I'm going to recommend, maybe everyone already knows about him, and I don't have my finger on the pulse of music, but there's a guy named Monrovia. Okay. He's a folk singer. He was, I think the New York Times posted to him these 3 new folk singers. Mm-hmm. They did an article yesterday about people you should check out because they're young and new. But this kid was born in Liberia.
Okay.
And the capital is Monrovia, Monrovia. Mm-hmm. And he was adopted at the age of 8 and grew up in Appalachia. I'm not exactly sure where, but...
Interesting.
And he's got such a...
That's a crazy backstory right there.
Yeah. And then he sings like kind of pop folk country music.
Okay.
And he's from Liberia, and you know what I mean? So it's just really interesting. Anyway, his name is not... That's his stage name. And he named it after the capital of where he was born.
But if we search Monrovia, we'll find him.
It's going to find him. But then, but here's what I'm going to say, and this is, I don't mean this in a disparaging way at all. Mm-hmm. I was listening to his most popular song, which is very catchy and it's sweet and there's like a great thing. And I was listening to it and I was like, I partly think that it feels like he might be an AI artist. Like, like when you note it, when AI makes like a little mistake that no one would say, but like they don't notice.
Yeah, somebody described it perfectly. They're like, it was a teacher talking about how he spots AI written essays from students. He's like, students who are not good at writing write badly. Right. And the students who are good at writing, they write really well and they have good ideas. He said AI is when a student does something with AI, it's the weirdest combination of bad ideas but good writing.
Oh, interesting. Bad ideas and good writing. Yeah. So anyway, so I don't mean to disparage it. I actually really like this artist, and it's possible that because he grew up until he was 8 in Liberia, where they do speak English, but it's possible that there's just like a slight, like when remember there was a big, huge, like sort of a Victoria's Secret company in China when I was visiting there years ago. And it had, purple neon above the door, and it was all over the country. They had like these stores, like everywhere, like Victoria's Secret, and it was called Clatina. And you know that, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know that this
Right,
guy
it's
had
like-
gone
it's
to
a-
like study
it's like
at
a bad
Stanford, and he
translation.
came back and he's like, I'm going to name the store for you because I'm an ad exec. And they're like, shouldn't you have this? Shouldn't you check this out with an American or an English person? And they're like, no, I totally know English.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
what I'm doing. And they're just like determined to
Oh
like.
my God!
They're like,
you
it
wanna
is the
evoke
best.
like
move.
femininity and
Right, and it's like
Oh
you're
my
like if
God.
you just showed it to any person who
right.
spoke English as their
Yeah,
first
yeah.
language, they'd be like, nope, you cannot name a store about, you know what I mean, lingerie store, Clatina. You just can't.
Yeah.
I can't even. Shouldn't even have to explain it to you. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
So anyway, I feel like there's that with AI where like it makes
Yeah.
these little mistakes because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a native speaker, and it's not Anyway, that's my.
Yeah, I think AI is really good at like giving you raw material, like research and stuff, but like producing a final product, it's just not that good yet.
Yeah. It's not. And you can tell when I'm reading something
Yeah.
like they started pumping these little history essays into social media, like, especially on Facebook. And I'm a sucker for them. Like I'll wake up in the morning and it'll be like, oh, look, it's a story about, the Shackleton and the endurance, and like and it's like like a page and a half long, and but there's a template that it uses, and I get
shit.
one paragraph in, and I'm like, oh my
I haven't looked
God.
at Facebook in a long time, but I keep hearing it's like this wasteland of slop now.
It's so
AI
much
slop.
crap, and it's just like, and it's written with a template, like it
Like, who's
literally
posting
has.
it though?
I think they're just doing it themselves. and
Like
they have it.
like Facebook is just generating it.
Yeah,
using
to keep
it.
you, and it's working because I get sucked
Yeah.
in by these little history lessons.
Yeah.
They're like mini 1.5 pages, but I've started to notice that they're all using the same template. Like even the structure and the syntax and the way that it's fascinating. Yeah, it's really bad. Okay,
So I'll give one more really quick recommendation. So my writer that I've mentioned so many times on this podcast, John Gans, who's like my favorite political writer. I kind of eat everything up that he writes these days because I think there's just nobody more clear-eyed right now. But he was on the Ezra Klein podcast.
okay.
And so really recently talking about the Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson conversation. And I just think of all the takes on that, like that conversation gives the most clear-eyed kind of like that is the take of all takes, that his appearance on Ezra Klein. And Ezra Klein, who I have issues with, like he's a great interviewer, has great guests. When he's like spewing his own ideas, I tend to cringe a lot, but and roll my eyes. But like this episode of John Gans on Ezra Klein, totally recommend.
So yeah, satellite haiku. It's always good to talk to you.
Satellites? A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth.